All right, developers, welcome. Today, we're doing a technical dive into the PC Guard Protection Interface. Now, this is the API that lets you go way beyond the default settings. If you want to build licensing logic that's deeply, and I mean deeply, integrated into your application, you are in exactly the right place. So here's the plan. We'll kick things off by explaining what the interface is all about. Then, we'll walk through all the configuration options. After that, we'll get into the really cool stuff like custom counters and storing user info, cover the exact implementation steps, and then wrap it all up with a quick summary. Okay, first things first. Let's lay the groundwork and understand what the protection interface actually is. I want you to think of it like a secure bridge. It's really the API that lets your application's own code have a direct conversation with the PC Guard protection layer that's wrapped around it. This means right from your own functions, you can query the license status, check demo limitations, and access a ton of other critical data in real time. And this is what changes the game. It transforms the protection from just a simple on or off switch when your app starts into a component that's truly interactive. Your application can now be smart about its own licensing state, which lets you create a way more seamless and integrated experience for your users. And there are really two levels to this. You've got the standard interface, which is mostly for reading data, checking things like activation status. But then you have the advanced interface, which takes it a huge step further. It lets you actively call functions to do things like remove or transfer a license, all directly from your app's code. So, now that we know what it is, let's dig into how you actually configure it inside your project. Let's start with the most practical question, right? How do we flip the switch on this thing and actually start getting data out of it? Well, it all starts in your project settings. First, you just enable the main interface. It's usually just a single checkbox. Next, you can choose to expose the interface data through environment variables, which is super convenient for accessing that licensing info from different programming languages. And finally, there's an alternate interface option, which is specially optimized for certain environments, like .NET applications. But what about those default pop-ups? Your demo has expired message. What if you want to handle that event inside your application with your own custom user interface? This is where these next options are absolutely crucial. By enabling them, you're telling PC Guard, hey, step back, suppress your default dialogues. Instead of a pop-up, the protection code just flags the status and hands control right back to your code. This gives you complete authority over the user experience. And that's really the bottom line here. These settings are your key to moving beyond those default behaviors. They empower you to build a license management experience that feels completely native to your application, not like some third-party add-on. Okay, now let's get into one of the most powerful and flexible features you can access through the interface: custom counters. What you get are 10 32-bit unsigned integer values that are securely stored right inside the protection data. You can use these for anything you can think of: tracking usage for a specific feature, storing credits, or managing any other app-specific value you need to keep safe. And you have total control. You can read the current value of any counter using the getInterfaceData function. And, more importantly, you can securely write new values back using update custom counters. It's basically a persistent, secure storage that's managed by the protection layer itself. Now, this is where things get really clever. This goes way beyond just storing 10 numbers. The real question is, how can we leverage this to manage, say, hundreds of different features? The answer is to treat each of the 32 bits inside those 10 counters as an individual on-off switch, a Boolean flag. With that little shift in perspective, you suddenly have the ability to manage up to 320 distinct features for every single license. It's incredible. And this table just illustrates the concept perfectly. Within just one counter, bit 0 can represent if feature A is on, bit 1 for feature B, and you can do that all the way up to bit 31. This is just an incredibly efficient way to manage really complex feature sets that are tied to a specific license. All right, next up, let's take a look at storing specific end-user information directly inside the license data. This is perfect for embedding your customer's details right into their license file. You can store their name, company, and you even get 3 additional custom fields. Then you can pull this data through the interface to personalize the application. Maybe you display it in the About box or use it to watermark documents. Super useful. Okay, theory is great, but let's get down to the nitty-gritty. How do we actually put all of this into practice?
It's really just a straightforward 5-step process. First, you jump into your source code to declare and call the interface functions. Second, you enable the main interface option in your project. Third, you tick off any of those special handling options we talked about. Fourth, enable custom counters if you're going to use them. And finally, you just protect the application. That's it.
And here's a great pro tip that makes things even easier. Get this. Even if you forget to check that Enable Protection interface box, PCGuard is actually smart enough to detect the function calls in your code when you protect it, and it'll just activate the interface for you automatically. That's a really nice touch. All right, let's do a quick recap of everything we've just covered. So, to sum it all up, the protection interface is that essential bridge that gives you deep, programmatic control. You can use the granular options to build a totally custom user experience. You can leverage custom counters for incredibly flexible data storage and to manage literally hundreds of features. And just remember, the implementation itself is a simple, logical process.
So, I'll leave you with this question. Now that you're armed with this knowledge, how are you going to leverage the protection interface to enhance your own application's licensing experience? Because the possibilities for creating a more integrated and user-friendly model are now wide open for you.